Let's do it.
Sounds great.
This is the Trade Show's Unhinged podcast, a podcast from the Facebook group You Know You Work in Trade Shows When. This podcast centers on trade shows, live events, and experiential marketing activations in today's world. Your hosts are Todd and Mike, who is the owner of Showbox Exhibits and the creator of the Facebook group You Know You Work in Trade Shows When, and Mike Morrison, Vice President of Sales for WS Display. The clock is ticking, so let's get busy and get to it, and we'll do just that after this.
Need a presenter? Your Event Audio has you covered. Closed-circuit audio equipment with turnkey operation at your trade show booth, live event, or private event. YourEventAudio.com is the place to go. DJ services, MC talent, and a whole lot more. Check out YourEventAudio.com today.
Showbox Exhibits, headquartered in Houston, Texas, where they specialize in design, fabrication, and management of your trade show displays. At Showbox, the difference starts with listening to fully understand the unique brand story that's needed. Then they create an innovative, compelling concept that reflects specific event objectives. From static trade show displays to fully custom, oversized exhibits featuring multimedia graphics, Showbox brings your company's message to the masses. Showbox is a trade show, convention, and environment design agency that is full service from start to finish. They're based in Houston, Texas, but they serve worldwide. They've been creating exhibits for over 20 years. Showbox Exhibits at showboxexhibits.com. All right, I tell you what, it's busy. And by the way, it's extremely cold. It is January. It is winter. I was just off mic chatting with Todd. We'll do our formal introductions in a second, but our last show that we did for Trade Shows Unhinged was on December the 13th. It's January the 24th now. And almost a month, just a little over a month later, we're finding time just to be able to sit down for a few minutes to record some thoughts on Trade Shows Unhinged here on the Facebook group You Know You Work in Trade Shows When, which is growing by leaps and bounds because I always get a lot of requests on a daily basis for people to join that group. I'm sure you do too as well. Mr. Todd and Mike from Showbox Exhibits in Houston, Texas and beyond. He is the owner of that. He also is the founder of that particular Facebook group. Of course, I'm Mike Morrison, Vice President of Sales at WS Display. Here on this Friday, January 24th, man, we had the holidays, so that kind of skewed our opportunity to get together to do some recording, but also just the show schedule. As we know, CES kicks it off, and then it just goes downhill from there of the number of different shows that we have to do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've probably done since our last podcast, 10 shows.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of shows. Your airway miles, your sky miles, whatever it is that you're flying, probably American or one of those, has got to be going through the roof, which is good. But then again, you don't have a lot of home time, family time, but we all cash that in when you decide to play in the trade show sandbox, as we know. Speaking of the trade show sandbox, another thing we were chatting offline, it's the situation I dealt with yesterday and today, and what is seemingly, if we're going to gripe, moan, and groan about trade shows, a problem that's still happening in Advanced Warehouse. I don't understand it. Case in point, I had a client who was installing 3 light boxes for their client at a show. It was light boxes, graphics, feet went with it. 5 boxes that were shipped to Advanced Warehouse. 4 show up to the booth. We've all heard this scenario before. There's a box missing. And of course, this box has the feet in it. So we get the call. Hey, we only got 4 boxes. 5 were shipped. I go back, look at the order, feet installed. So I know feet were sent. this is a show services situation, general contractor, whoever's delivering from the advanced warehouse to the dock to the floor,
it's that
that's
next
them.
layer. You have one layer getting it there. The next layer is drayage.
It's drayage,
Yeah.
which you pay a boatload for.
Right.
And then you're going to, during the setup hours, not be efficient. But you're going to hear me say the word efficient 100 million times, it seems, because that's my word for 2025 is efficiency. How can you not go from point A to point B? And I know it's being touched by maybe multiple people, but a box of the heavy of all the boxes gets lost. So long story short, this morning I find out that they went into the wee hours of the night to find that it was probably kicked into a corner somewhere and lost, but they found it and they got it to the site in just the nick of time. That always seems to happen. Now the GC was going to build some feet, because they're handy people there, right? They can make something happen to make it stable, but it's not what they bought and it's not what they sent. And chances are we're going to charge for it.
Sure.
So here's the thing, because everybody's making some pictures of dead presidents. So it's like, it's frustrating now that after all these years, we're still seeing the same occurrence over and over again. And in 2025, Todd, expecting that we're going to be better than we were in previous years.
Well, I think we hit the major reset for COVID. It's like they started all over again after COVID and how to make things work, especially when you go to advance. We try to do everything we can to do it right, to do what they say is more efficient, sending to the warehouse. Okay, well then we're going to be first in, right? Well, that doesn't always happen either.
Right.
So when we're sending small boxes, we're going to put all 5 on a skid, strap it together, and they don't separate, So I don't know if that's something that's you can do or you even want to do, but sending small boxes to a show is one thing. Sending it to warehouse, which they have to collect it and then put it on another truck and send it to the show. You're just asking for someone to screw it up.
You're exactly right. I don't, but now that's reality. What you just preached, what you just spit was true. It's truth. The problem is, as we know, a lot of people are being pushed to the last second, and they're, in this case, I believe it was shipped to the builder who said it, showed it, and then boxed it and sent it to advance to their choice. But you've got to assume, and I would if I was my customer, that my stuff's going to be at the booth. But how many times over years and years of shows have I gone to the booth and there's a box missing, there's a bag missing, just some of the smallest stuff. It's frustrating, and it's bad look on our in our industry, in my opinion. We got to get over it. We got to do something to make it right. Speaking of making it right, if we're talking about unhinged things, let's talk about government for a second. We got a new president in now. We've got new people in the House and the Senate. And of course, here come the tariffs and the penalties on the table now for Mexico, Canada, and of course, China, other countries that are applicable. Everything is taking shape for what they're saying February 1st, which is right here on us. And everyone's holding their breath as this one will affect many, many people. The discussion as of late has been 60% on China specifically, and then some kind of a 25% most likely tariff with products coming in from Mexico and Canada that are coming from the countries like China and others that are filtering in from the north and the south.
So are you saying that it's going to be 25% China if they go to Mexico first or Canada first and come in?
That's what's my understanding. If it's a direct flight, it's 60%. If you want to take the scenic route, it's 25. That's my interpretation. I may be wrong, but I've did some fast reading, and it changes on the daily, right?
Yeah. Right.
Because there's got to be some negotiating here. I understand the pressures that are going on between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. I get it. I understand. I think most of the Americans in our industry and across the board do as well. So you got, and he ran on it, and they collectively ran on that principle, right? Yeah. Is make America great again and bring jobs back and production back to the United States. That's what he won on. So I do get it. And so now at the end of the day, as you and I were off mic talking, companies like us and companies across the board in our industry and related to our industry are now having to take second looks at domestic production, which is, as you politely said, that's what they wanted you to do in the first place. And I'm like, yes, but it was too expensive. It's all about the cost of doing that business. So I don't know, man. I don't know where this goes. You got to do what you got to do to build. You're going to find the components somewhere.
Well, and I think what you said earlier too is true. And what's going to happen is companies like us who are bringing in products from Mexico, Canada, China, we're just going to charge more for it. It's not necessarily going to make me look for an American supplier right away.
Here's the only
hard to get a good supplier.
Correct. Here's the downside of let's take extrusion. Okay, let's take aluminum extrusion. And if you're sourcing from offshore and you're depending on the container showing up and bringing you your bulk of your product, the problem is when you run out, because being the price aggressive solution, a lot of people are finding out about WS and they're like, yeah, you're selling it for a fraction of what I'm getting it from here. So yeah, I'm gonna buy it from you. And they come in and they wipe us out of a commodity profile. And we know it's 10 to 12 weeks at best, if it doesn't get hung up in customs, to get it off the port to my dock. I can't go 10 to 12 weeks or more without that product.
Yeah.
And we are facing that with some highly commoditized product right now. And so my point is, you might pay more domestically for it, but at least you would have a source on this side of the world that you could get your hands on it if you need to bring some in, if you're depleted with that uncustomary order that takes it off your shelf. And that's what I'm preaching now. We've got to do it.
I like where you're headed with that. I mean, I would love to have a U.S. supplier of what we buy.
Exactly.
There just isn't.
Well, there are, but they're more.
Well, okay. Not, I'm heavily invested in a certain product, and there's nobody in the States that makes what I buy, right? So unless someone can come into the States or start a company and start extruding what I use, I'm still stuck.
Understand. Sister product, something similar that you could, grandfather into a design to make it work. Possible. We own the dies, so I can go and source wherever I want.
Yeah. Manufacture.
So that's a luxury of that.
Yeah.
But if you are sourcing from a manufacturer and they own the die, then you're kind of you're stuck.
Wherever they manufacture from, maybe the folks that I buy from would consider, a U.S. factory, which is what Trump wants. He wants U.S. manufacturing. And that's fine with me.
Create some jobs here and put them here. It's happening already anyway. They're buying up the farms. They're doing everything else, and they're putting people here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just got to have some skin in the game in the U.S. is kind of what the settlement of the situation is. It'll be interesting to hear what some of our listeners and viewers have to say about that. We'll put our email up at the end of the show to get some feedback on that. But that's just an interesting anomaly of circumstance that we're in right now. This was kind of funny, not hilarious, but interesting. Over in Las Vegas, Exhibit City News ran an article involving a publication, or I think it was an organization that was pointing out this headline. The headline reads, Elon Musk's boring company is tunneling beneath Las Vegas with little oversight, quote unquote, little oversight, meaning that they're just digging away and nobody's paying attention to what they're doing or governing what's actually happening. Now, of course, and this is all happening right around the Las Vegas Convention Center, right, where they've got the tunnels and they've got the Teslas and they're driving people around in the loop to help with the traffic, which is tremendously heavy, and it can be a problem. Plus, it's Tesla, right? So it's a step up. It's a premium opportunity to ride in a car, and it's a great advertisement for Musk and his Tesla company.
Yeah.
Well, Las Vegas Convention Bureau came out, the Visitors Bureau came out, and they kind of swung the bat back at these folks, saying, well, first of all, it's about 3/4 of a mile of a walk, and there's a lot of people who can't walk it or won't walk it, so they need an alternative to transportation that exists right now because of the overcrowding of it. But secondly, they pointed out that there is a local municipality governance with fire and code and all the things that they've met and they're overseeing as it's being done. But there's, you got to look at who owns the company and who the target is. And that's kind of what everybody believes is going on here, is trying to stir up a pot in Las Vegas. I asked you a minute ago if you had I've not ridden in one of those particular ones in the tunnel yet. Maybe one day shortly on the bucket list, I'll do it just to say, yeah, I did it. And it was not that thrilling, but I did it.
Well, right now it's just cars going back and forth. What they need to do is make it a tram, put a lot of people on it, because it's not efficient right now. It's not efficient, like you say.
Can you make a Tesla tram?
Yeah,
I got it. You take the Tesla trucks and you hook them together like a train.
The Cybertrucks that they can't sell. Yeah.
I said the Cybertruck, Tesla truck, whatever, Cybertruck. And you put them together and you put a track down.
Perfect.
And they ride and watch a video or whatever from point A to point C. I should get a cut of that because somebody's going to do it. That's been my world. But that's interesting news coming out of Las Vegas. We'll see how that turns out. Finally, before we take a break, and you and I were you made a great observation, and I see the same thing, specifically in LinkedIn, but in social media in general. Right now, two things are very prevalent in our world of trade shows, live events, experiential marketing, maybe more trade shows than live events, is hiring. Everybody is hiring for something right now because we're busier than we all get out at this point. And the merger and acquisition world, the M&A world, is off the chain. If they can't beat you, they'll buy you. They want to get bigger and stronger. And those two things, trying to beef up one way or the other or both, is happening right now in our world.
Yep. It's amazing. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there right now. I'm looking for account executives and account managers, veterans. If you're not a veteran, but if you have some experience, I would love to talk to you, because some kind of weird blowing up is going on right now. So just contact Showbox Exhibits, info@Showbox Exhibits if you're interested. Could use you. If you want to make a move, let me know.
And I don't fault you for doing that. First of all, you own the show. But secondly, you're taking advantage of maybe getting into someone's ear who is like, you know what? It's time. It's time for a move. It's time for something different. We made a change, in our organization today, right, as we're recording. And, you're always looking for great talent, especially you said a word, veteran. You can get a body easily.
Yeah.
You can easily get a body. They're out there everywhere. You look at a LinkedIn ad, it has 100+ resumes already submitted to it. They're bodies. Okay. And I don't know what that game is, but it just seems to me it's the same advertisers or the same companies over and over that's trying to hire. I don't know if they're just trying to build a database of emails or what they're doing. But the bottom line is we are hurting for really strong people to do jobs within our organizations. And account managers and account reps, they are huge. They keep that train on the track, so to speak, for the projects that have to go and face like what this particular company was facing on the show floor when they're missing product, and things of that nature. That's just one of the many things they have to deal with. So that'll be an interesting anomaly as we come out of January into February. There's still a lot of major shows happening in February. It does tend to die a little going into March and April. But then again, it's steady throughout the spring and then begins to fall around in May into the summer when school gets out. And then there's just a little bit of a break before trying to ramp up before fall. It's that same cycle of trade shows, right? So it'll be interesting to see what's going on there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about an interesting article and sum up the future of trade shows in the eyes of one veteran within our industry. And we'll see if we get your thoughts on that. We'll take a look at that when we come back after this.
From light boxes, towers, counters, and back walls to turnkey custom exhibits, WS Display is your partner in providing quality displays at extremely aggressive pricing to fit any reseller's budget. Make more profit by teaming up with WS. With a team of experts to assist with estimates, renderings, and CAD, to fulfillment, setup, and test fitting, quality photo proofs, and complete project handling from our East Coast, West Coast, and Pacific fulfillment facilities. We can be your partner today. Hit me up at mike@wsdisplay.com for more information.
You know, there's a lot of veterans that I hear about, read about. Some of them write articles for publications. One in particular is at Exhibit City News. And Bob McGlincy is with Willwork, and he just co-wrote an amazing book with Larry Kulchwick, an industry veteran, and talking about a lot of what we're going to talk about now. He just did an article about, and how it was termed was and headlined, "The Future of Trade Shows," and what it's going to look like. And basically, I made some bullet points. And he had some subtitles and some supporting content on these subjects. But the ones that stuck out, and they're not in alphabetical order or anything else, it may have been of importance, though. AI, we've been talking a lot about that, both on this show as well as Don and Mike. Data analysis, the way you analyze data for your event, is at the top of the list. The seemingly inevitable hybrid event that's still hanging around, both on demand as well as face-to-face. Sustainability, top of the list. Globalization. You would know something about this because you do a lot of overseas work with your clients back and forth. What it's polite way of saying generation problems, but it's generational differences. I call it cultural crap. It's just, how one group of people see things and how another sees it. Right. Face-to-face, obviously. Mergers and acquisitions and consolidations, as I said before. Advanced tech integration, bringing in more and more advanced technology to the booths, to the activations, to the events in order to make it stand out. Labor shortages, that may ring true in a lot of the instances I was talking about earlier on the show. And then just life on the show floor. Registration in particular had an interesting comment. Biometric and touchless check-ins are the future, coupled with QR code scanning and facial recognition, just like you do at the airport now. At least I do. When I fly Delta, I go through facial recognition. When I go through Clear, it's the same thing. They look at my eyes. They make sure I'm up here, eyes up here, when I go through to check in. These things will become more commonplace, as will an emphasis on security, health, and wellness, and the issuance of smart badges. Not quite sure what that is. I don't think he's referring to ESCA badges per se, but some kind of smart badge that identifies you going in. Question, in your opinion, Todd, is the future now?
Is the future now?
Yeah, and that hurt your head, right?
In some ways, sure. I don't know. It seems like some things advance quickly and others really don't seem to advance much. And I think we're in an industry that hasn't really seen much technological advances, especially in the setup of shows, right? I mean, it's still forklifts and it's still, set up and carpet and all that stuff. So until we see an advancement in how trade shows are presented, there's really not much advancement in our world, but other technologies, sure, transportation, computers, AI, things like that. But no, we're still walking on the same carpet we walked on in trade shows 50 years ago.
With no padding.
With no bed.
And you hit on something there. And what's that? Like, and I'll say it wrong, but I think we know what the gist of it is. Craziness or whatever it is when you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, whatever that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing that same thing over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And we say we need to get better, but the bottom line, we point out these bullet points and we point out these things, these ideas, and then we don't implement them.
Yeah.
Or you try to implement them and it goes very short range, stops.
Yeah.
Sustainability comes to mind. There's not an Anaheim. If you've ever seen Anaheim before, the convention center there, their footprint for sustainability is off the chain. They compost and recycle everything that goes in that building. But that's because it is mandatory. And everywhere else, it's not. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you could talk sustainability, you could talk green, you can talk all these things. But that particular one sticks out as it's kind of like, and I'm going to throw an acronym out there that's going to piss some people off. And I'm sorry, DEI. We know where that's going, since the beginning of the year.
It's already been nixed.
Yeah, and it's been on its decline anyway. Yeah. But as soon as the governmental changes occurred, it's out the door, especially governmentally. And now it's taking effect and has been taking effect, as you said, now for major corporations for a while now. It sounds good on the surface, and then it dies because it's not effective. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I think we should. Here's my counterpoint to those points. I think we should work on the things that make us look better, be better, cost effective, and efficient. If we would work on those things as an industry, we would come out smelling like a rose. Stop overcharging for stuff. Stop being stupid over drayage and all this other mishandling of product and get some decent labor on the floor. Get some veterans. Until we do that, I really think it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be an interesting next couple of years. Some of us, this guy, I'm in my final stages. I'm at the end of the road. Mm-hmm. I've only got a couple of years, few years left, if I'm lucky.
In this industry, not on this earth.
Either one. Oh, I'm 62, diabetic, all kind of health issues. I went to the doctor today. Get flying colors. I'm fine. The blood work checks out great. Urine sample, not so much. Probably shouldn't have done that before I went in. But no, I'm just kidding. The bottom line is, I'm on the back end.
Yeah.
And I've watched over years, a lot of mouth talk, a lot of speak about getting better, but not a lot of action. Yeah, word salads, a lot of word salads, but we're not giving any credence to some changes. Well, so there's my unhinged point right there.
Well, what's weird is that, I can do a 10 by 20 exhibit here in the United States, and then I can do the same exact look in another country, name one. And in that other country, it's a fourth of the price. And it's there's no drayage, there's no overcharging. Of course, then again, I don't know exactly why, it's so much less expensive. But when there's not really a material handling charge, who's getting? I guess the exhibitors are paying more for their booth space. I mean, OTC over the years, up until a couple of years ago, had no drayage, and I never understood that. And once they went to a drayage policy, everybody lost their minds. But, so yes, I agree. I wish some of these fees would come down. Some of these charges, some of these service fees. Internet is a racket.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, come on.
$150 a day for internet inside of the convention center in Las Vegas?
Mike, $150. I mean, we've paid $40,000 internet bills for a 3-day show.
What?
For companies who need decent speed internet. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
$40K.
$40K. Absolutely. Yeah, that's nothing.
That is a problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem.
And of course, if you try to bring your own stuff, they're going to block it.
And you can't. Yeah, you can't bring in your own. You have to pay for that. Then you can't bring in your own routers to make a wireless network. No. Talk about Unhinged. Don't get me started.
And you're right. And there are some people out there who have, many people have started podcasts. Many people have started video casts talking about this very thing. I think of the Exhibitor Advocate. I think of several other people who have started their journeys down this road that I've been doing now for, close to 9 years, that are now collectively preaching the same thing. Our industry is in danger. If, on a serious note, if we don't start making some changes, we're going to shoot ourselves, not going to shoot ourselves in the foot. We're going to cut our feet off. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be in a serious boat, because we're not going to have people going to shows. They're going to have private events, and it's going to change, and it's going to be a problem. So the trade show unhinged at gmail.com email address is right there, scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Tell us what you want to talk about. Maybe you see something out there. I know we see it out there on the Facebook group. A lot of people are real frequent in posting their photographs at show sites and some of the crazy things that they see. Maybe there's a trend that we're missing, but we're looking at it from one perspective of our worlds, of a manufacturer, supplier of displays, and then, of course, the builder themselves. Maybe you have a different approach, a different look. General contractor, I'd love to bring on here and have a discussion about things. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to bring on some people and love to get ideas from the listeners, because obviously we can't know everything. Even though
we try like hell. we try to be the one all be all of every subject that involves trade shows here at Trade Shows Unhinged.